afternoon, folks. Steve Walls here, alongside Darren Smith. With the W, I'm with the W Show 100.1 FM. Darren's with the Ship on 810 WHB Sports Radio. Darren, last day of Chiefs training camp, man.
I know, so hard to believe.
Been going strong every day. What is it? About 20 days.
Hey man, they all run together, dude.
Exactly. But what were your thoughts about today's press conference? Of course, 5,000 fans were able to go out to Arrowhead Stadium today in the rain and see the Chiefs lift their Super Bowl flag. Your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I didn't really. I know we had talked about it before, but I actually got a chance to watch some of the live stream that the Chiefs did on YouTube, and so it was interesting. I enjoyed what I saw. Obviously when pads hit or anything like that, kind of like a walkthrough more or less. But it was cool, and then I was actually shocked because I was up early this morning taking care of some family stuff, and I saw it was pouring down raining. So I'm like, well, I didn't know what it was going to be like actually at Arrowhead for folks sitting out there in the rain and stuff like that, whether or not they were going to, well, I figured they would try to, torture themselves through that since, who knows when the next time they'll be actually going to a game. But all in all, look, it was a good thing for them that they got a chance to see the flag being raised. I know there's footage of it out there now, with Clark Hunt and Mitch Holtis raising the flag, the Super Bowl flag up. And so now the next thing they have to do is, unveil the banner on opening night. And then before then, showcase the rings.
That's right. And you know what? It's crazy that on all throughout the week, it's perfect. The weather is great, and then today it just happened to rain. So shout out to everybody that went out there and was able to witness the flag being raised. Of course, the flag is right next to the first Super Bowl that the Chiefs had won. So,
well, look, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I am glad that fall weather hit in August versus having to wait till like the middle of October. Yes, trust me. Going from 95 to 70, 73 this morning felt so good. It felt so good.
But yeah, so Andy Reid spoke first.
Yeah,
he talked about the flag being raised. Also, talked about it being the last day of camp. And he was asked a few questions just about, his thoughts on how camp went and the schedule going forward, preparing for week 1 versus the Texans, because that's what everyone wants to know about. They want to know about starting the season and preparing for that week 1 win against the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously get a chance to talk to Andy, I think, at least twice more before kickoff on next, not this Thursday, but the following Thursday coming up. And that was, I got a chance to get a question in Andy, or 2 questions in Andy about that. And, I was curious because I know I was there. I can't remember if you were there or not when the Chiefs opened up the season against the New England Patriots. And that was when, we saw Kareem Hunt bust on the scene. Oh, that's another thing too. About, actually getting a chance to watch the live stream, and I don't know if you got a chance to see it at all, or if you caught any of it during the training camp. But Clyde, it was we talked about who Clyde reminds people of, and they kept saying the guy from the Eagles. He looks like a bigger version of Kareem Hunt, man. I looked at him out there with owl pads on. Boy, it looked like he's gonna be a beast. I may have to revise my Rookie of the Year conversation talk. Look, saying that. So I say that I like what I saw. Man, I kind of forgot the question, but what was the question again? Because I got off on Clyde, man. It was just
about preparing for week 1.
Yeah. So when you're preparing for it, again, because they're starting on a Thursday versus a Sunday. I'm curious as does your mode of practice changes? But as they kind of mentioned with us in the media, they're going to build their week off of starting, I think, Friday, September the 4th, and then let that be day 1 of the game week, and we'll follow that normal path. So that's a good thing. And Andy is he knew that there were going to be questions coming as it relates to the social justice stuff, and he didn't run from it. He addressed it. But you can tell that he's someone that can walk and chew gum. So he knows what they're going to do as we get closer. He's not going to reveal it, which I don't blame him. But then also he is ready for kickoff. I think this training camp, because it brought about a different type of challenge in regards to preparation, the COVID, and all this stuff, that he's up for it. And again, as we've talked about, being around Patrick and all these other players is keeping them young. I mean, and so
Right.
that's the one thing that I think that you and I missed the most being out there is seeing the camaraderie that we would see in practice every day. And then you can kind of see, you can kind of get a sense of Andy with his juices flowing out there with the players and stuff in practice.
And you know what? Another thing, and I think Andy, this was in response to your question that Andy had answered, and so he talked about getting the Super Bowl rings, and he said, of course, going to put it on the PR, president of PR, but he talked about it's an opportunity for them to move forward, get it over with, out the way, and then they're able to move on with the season.
Well, and that is important because generally they get, as they said before, they generally get the rings like in June or July. And they have a little thing, and then it's unveiled a little bit later. But because you're doing all this stuff closer to the start of the season, people really can't move on from last year's Super Bowl win and focus on this year's football team going further. And so, obviously, it's going to be hard to do because you're going to be dealing with it all the way up until you unveil the banner and until you hit each other in the mouth. But I think if you're Andy Reid, you would have probably preferred to have been able to get this out the way. So then all you have left is just a banner, and then you can worry about because once that banner's unfold, they're through with last year's talk. They don't talk about last year no more.
Of
I
course.
mean, they really don't want to talk about it now, but because of the situation, COVID stuff like that, and you have yet to see the rings, and then that's what they're dealing with.
Now we also talked to quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Your thoughts on what he had to say, because when you think about everything that's been going on, and one other thing that Pat is having to think about and have in the back of his head is the death of Chadwick Boseman, who of course played back Black Panther and so many other had so many other phenomenal roles that he was able to play in the movie industry. And so Pat actually just, I believe, 3 months ago, was with Chadwick on the show The Shop, with the HBO show, and you had a chance to ask him about Chadwick Boseman. But let's talk about Pat for a second.
Well, yeah, and to that point, and shout out to you. I see you got the Black Panther over your right shoulder, so let's kind of let that go on. But yeah, but to Pat's credit, and I had a clip of Chadwick, behind me while I was asking the question, and we knew that he was on the shot with LeBron, but also what I forgot was that he actually sat next to Chadwick during the All-Star game. Chadwick obviously was judging the night before, but they sat next to each other, and their wives and girlfriends, sat and spoke with each other. So, he got a chance to get to know him a little bit more. And thankfully, he didn't share any personal conversations. I almost thought he was. I was like, no, don't do that. But, I mean, we lost it. Look, he's 43 years old, which is just a year older than me. So that tells you something. One, black men, go, get checked up. Because one, he's been having this for 4 years, this type of cancer for 4 years, and no one he never talked about it, never revealed it. And the amount of movies that he was doing, you can't even probably imagine the pain that he was probably going through. So you look at that, you talked about him playing Jackie Robinson. He passed away on Jackie Robinson Day in Major League Baseball. He played Thurgood Marshall. He played James Brown. He played in the movie. I forgot the running. It was the running back, but I can't think. No, the Ernie Davidson movie, something like that he played in. So I mean, he played a lot of.
Most recently, the Five Bloods.
Yeah, the five. Yeah. I think that was his last starring role, and so, you know, it's we in our community take death. Not say we take death harder, but we try to take the time to appreciate the artistry of what someone has done or laid the like something happens to Denzel Morgan, Lawrence Fishburne. I
Mhm.
mean, we're gonna feel a certain kind of way because again, as I mentioned in a post last night, representation matters. It matters when you see a Barack Obama after 43 presidents before you who looks like you ascend to the highest, place that you can. So when you look at someone that we had never really had a what you would consider a black superhero, I mean, we had, people talk about Leonard Six or the Meteor Man. I mean, those were positive. Yeah, yeah, I mean, those were positive. Those were positive influences, but it didn't get the same type of praise more or less like you would see a Black Panther. And so, again, Patrick's comments on it was what was kind of was in depth, and it was good for him to say.
And Patrick also talked about getting ready for that first week. And
He's still waiting to get hit.
and that's exactly what I was going to say because when you think about what Patrick has done in this offseason and the way that COVID has affected the training camp and no preseason games, so these guys, even you can't replicate. You hear the coaches say it all the time. You cannot replicate the speed of a full game.
Yeah, and to be honest, man, we talked about it. Someone asked me last night about what I thought the Chiefs record was going to be, and I'm still battling with whether or not they go 19-0 or whatever. I know they're not, but you know the one thing about again not having the preseason games is that Patrick and you brought up before, man. I mean, taking that first hit, how does his body respond to it because he hasn't been hit since the Super Bowl, and so we know he's not going to get touched while they're in practice. And so does he flinch? Does he land differently? Because you're not getting hit in practice. I mean, you got to train your body once again. When you hit the ground. I mean, because he hadn't hit the ground since February. So I mean, that's a good point. I mean, that's the importance of preseason. Obviously, with everything that's going on, they couldn't do it, but I really don't have a great solid answer because I just don't know how they're going to do it.
We also talked to Clark Hunt, and Clark was able to
Clark.
uh, talk to us about a little of everything because this is the first time we've been able to talk to Clark, which he's the owner. Of course, if you don't know, he's the owner and he's the chairman and CEO of the Kansas City Chiefs. So Clark had a lot to say, starting off with the getting their rings to raising the flag and to also talked about some social injustices that he's going to help with this fight with his players.
Yeah, I had a lot of questions I want to ask Clark, but I'll get to that on the show tomorrow. But I do got to say, he talked about why it was important, in his opinion, um, that they kind of stepped up to the plate this year dealing with the causes. He talked about his father, in the 60s and 70s, during that time, obviously during that the civil rights time, with players such as Buck and R. Stills and Otis Taylor. And then you got the final question, which you followed up with about him, about how his father's views and how he dealt with it back then, kind of, relate, kind of put him in the same position that his father did as well in supporting the players and what they do. And so I would love for you to talk about that part, but I do want to say that it was good to hear him mention it and being supportive of the players. The only issue that I had in his comments, he had responded to Sam McDowell of the Star when he asked the difference between 2016, 2017 versus now. And he made the comment that, that these issues were important to the players today. My only pushback would have been that those issues were important 3, 4 years ago when they were kneeling as well. But outside of that being the case, I liked Hunt's responds to a lot of the questions, especially yours. So
Yeah, and the question that I asked Clark, was just that about his dad, Lamar Hunt, and his support of black athletes in the '60s. Lamar selected Buck Buchanan and also Otis Taylor from HBCUs,
yep.
right, which is historically black colleges. And so at that time in the '60s, there was a lot of backlash due to the racial tension that was going on in the country. And so I wanted to know exactly how much of what his dad did does he try to emulate today, and with handling things that's going on within his organization and dealing with the racial issues going on today. So his answer, he gave an in-depth answer, and I really don't think that he thought about all of the things that his dad had done to support black athletes, because back in 2016, I really feel like, if that was brought up to him, he would have done things differently in support of, guys such as Marcus Peters, and also even Colin Kaepernick. I think he would have been in full support instead of saying, don't kneel. But then again, the dollar, the almighty dollar, makes people move in certain ways, in certain directions. So and as we talked about off air, it's just some of the comments that people are saying, the negative comments that people are saying on various Facebook and social media threads in regards to some of the questions that were asked to the players, and also ownership. And so, whether money made him lean a certain way or whether it was just him,
maybe that's just how he felt at the time.
Yeah. So, it's good to see that he's
Evolved.
changed his tune or evolved, so to speak. But time will tell, and we'll see exactly what these guys will do going forward.
And you know what? And look, again, and I say evolve because, again, he could have felt that way, because I think at that time, especially in 2017, you had a new administration, you had a new president. So, you kind of try not to rock the boat, so to speak. But obviously 3-4 years later, you see where the tide is shifting, and you see people for who they are. And so even though he may still feel a certain way, he may still support the current president. He's not going to vocalize that, but he's also, but I tell you though, this is winning. Winning changes how you operate at times as well. See, Jerry Jones hasn't won a Super Bowl in 26, 27 years since 1995 or January of '96. So he hasn't. So he's trying to do whatever he can. And we hadn't won Chiefs haven't won a Super Bowl since for 50 years. But when you win a Super Bowl and your star player, MVP of the league, Super Bowl, and now the new face, when he goes a certain direction as the owner, you got to toe that line with them. I mean, because one, he's your bread cow. He's the one that brought you over, brought you to the promised land, and you're investing $500 million into him. And so, if Patrick Mahomes talking about Black Lives Matter, you can't, as the owner, be like, no, you're going to stand at attention. But well, because now the left hand and right hand, they're not matching, and so that's Clark Hunt, if he's not one thing, is stupid, and so, but again, like you said, what he gets, he got a lot of stuff from his father, or his father passed along a lot of traits to him, and like I said, I'm gonna address it on the show tomorrow. Hopefully, you'll be on with me the first hour or whatever, but we'll have this, question that I'll pose as though you were Clark Hunt. So but it's a situation, man, where we are in some serious times, man, and unfortunately, it used to be a time where you could be independent, where you could straddle the fence. Now, You either for or against. I mean, there is no middle. There is no middle of the road. There is no gray. You either for or against. And unfortunately, that's the situation that we are because of the occupant in 1600 Pennsylvania.
Of course, man. And one other thing that is a pressing issue that people, are either for or against is the Chiefs ban of,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
headdresses,
Thanks for mentioning that too.
Native American headdresses. And so one of the things that kind of stood out to me was that they have been working on this for the last 7 years and
Yeah.
even longer than that. However, they were just wanting to have the education piece. And even if they weren't, it wasn't on the front burner, they were still, providing some type of education regarding the headdresses and Native Americans and things of that nature. And so he said that they've now gone from just working with the local Native American groups and Indian tribes to the national, moving it to national. And I think someone asked, with the Washington football team having to change their logo and things like that, how close are the Chiefs to, doing that? And he said that we're not on the top of their list.
yeah. He looks at, hold on. Don't compare us to Washington. Like, hey, that's a whole totally different thing.
Yep. He said we're not on the top of their list, which I can agree, because they're doing so much with the Native American community that they're providing, and all they want is for someone to have a platform for someone to provide education about them.
Yeah, and as I had mentioned before on the other show, was that I've been in conversations with one of the Chiefs recorders who was actually a part of those discussions over the last 6-7 years, and he was supposed to come on the show last Sunday, but backed out. And so, but when I talked to him offline on the phone, one of the things that he told me was that one, they'd only asked about the headdress. They, the paint, they kind of, the Chiefs do that in there, the painting. But the reason, and this is what he told me before. Now he told me this before Mark Donovan had spoke about it, and before Clark had spoke about it. So I knew that one, he was involved in those meetings. Was that for them, the feathers, the headdress, all the stuff, you have to earn that, and that's something that both Clark and Mark Donovan, said that they didn't know that they learned. And so again, you can't go to some five and dime store and buy a military uniform and put all these badges and stuff on and walk around like like you fought in the war or something, because folks would think that's disrespectful. So I tell people, so if they feel that way, then if they're telling you that that offends them, the headdress, why would you feel like that's a problem? And so, look, I'm glad that he addressed it, and I wish he would have gone in the manner, and I know nobody asked, but gone in the manner of what are they going to do to enforce it to make sure that they don't try to sneak stuff in or do anything like that.
I think overall, all three people that spoke today were, they were on top of the game, and you could tell their cohesiveness with everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing I think that all the assistant coaches have stressed a lot is that they're going to move in one accord, and whatever the players want to do, that they're going to do.
Yeah, I'm with it, man. And again, man, good question to Chief CEO and Chairman Clark Hunt that you got a chance to ask at the very end. So
I appreciate it. We appreciate everybody that hung out with us this training camp season. So hopefully we can do this again next year, man. And this time it'll be actually out either in or wherever the Chiefs are having training camp, man. It's been fun.
Well, Steve, yeah, and now we got to figure out what we're going to do for pregame now before the season starts. So I know we got the afternoon gridiron. We'll hopefully talk a little bit about that tomorrow. But then, I guess I'll put the onus on you to come up with a new show title or something for our pregame show and stuff. And then I don't know, maybe because people can't get enough football. Maybe we do some stuff post game after the Chiefs win or lose during the season. Give folks more content because they seem to love it.
Exactly. Remember, like us on all of our social media pages. Darren, where can they find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Darren Smith WHB. And then, of course, tomorrow I'll be doing the show on location at Cherry Company on the Plaza, her new store she opened up. I'll be there from 12 to 2 doing the ship on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, guys. Remember, like the W Show at the W Show KC, and also like myself at Steve Walls KC on all social media platforms. We are out of here.